right. If that'll work, I'll save you all the glare off the top of my noggin. So it's a pleasure to be here today with y'all. Really appreciate the invite. And so one thing I'm not going to do is try to wow you with my knowledge and expertise on tamarack control, because I'm definitely not an expert. The one thing I do know is people and partnerships. So I'm going to focus on that. There's a couple of guys here today that in my short time here in Colorado have really been instrumental to helping me be successful. And so I want to kind of tip my hat to Kim Morgan with Colorado Parks and Wildlife and Bill Noonan with U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service. Ken and Bill really walked in my door and started talking to me about Colorado and opened up with a lot of past experiences. And so it helped me kind of hit the ground running here in the state and really get off on a positive start. And then one other guy I want to point out, one of my employees is here, a young man named Jonas Feinstein. Jonas, if you raise your hand. He's the NRCS State Forester here in Colorado. And prior to working in Colorado for NRCS, coming up on 18 years, all the other foresters I work with, I would refer to them as maybe tree huggers a little bit. But Jonas is the first forester that I met that all he wants to do is kill trees. And so we're working through some issues with Jonas on proper forest management, and he likes to use really scientific technical phrases like groupie clumpy. So if you hear that phrase, he's usually somewhere nearby. So thanks again for having me. The NRCS has partnered with the Tamarack Coalition, I think, for going on a little over a decade now, for the past 10 years. And so one of the things for the NRCS, conservation technical assistance is the key to us being able to deliver our programs, deliver our conservation planning, working with private landowners, working with state, local entities, and it all revolves around building relationships. So for successful conservation, we have to first be successful at building relationships and building partnerships. And that's one of the things in the short time I've gotten to know Stacy and Rusty and the crew at the Tamarack Coalition. That's one of the things they really seem to have mastered as an organization, is they're good about going out and building diverse relationships with a diverse group of people, whether it be private landowners, federal, state, local entities, and local coalitions to be successful. For the NRCS, we have a number of special initiatives, and I wouldn't be able to say I was doing my job if I didn't try to tip my hat to a few of those. For those of you that may not be familiar with Colorado, in the San Luis Valley in south central Colorado, some of the oldest settlements in the state. Matter of fact, some Spanish land grants existed down there that are 200 to 300 years old. And the acequias are community water rights. And so we work with these typically small acreage producers on these acequias, and they are very distrusting of especially the federal government. So we work locally through other private landowners, conservation districts, and other partners to go in there and talk with those folks, find out what their goals are, what they want to do on their farms, and how they manage that water as a community. And so we've been able, through our Strike Force initiative, to have some what I'll say small successes in the last few years, and it's starting to really build some momentum. The second one in the middle of the screen is the Black-Footed Ferret Initiative, and this is one that's near and dear to Kim Morgan's heart. The Black-Footed Ferret, for those who may not know, was thought to be extinct until about, was it 1983? When a rancher's dog in Otetse, Wyoming, come carrying up a carcass of what they thought, I think, was a muskrat. And the wife argued with the husband, which, one thing for the guys in the room, the wife is always right. And in this case, she grabbed up the carcass and she said, "That's not a muskrat." She took it to their taxidermist, and the taxidermist said, "Well, I got good news and I got bad news." So the good news is it wasn't a muskrat. The bad news is it was black-footed ferret, which was thought to be extinct at the time. So as a result of that find, the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service developed their Black-Footed Ferret Recovery Center just here north of Fort Collins, a few miles. And then in the past 4 years, is that right, Kim? The Colorado Parks and Wildlife, Fish and Wildlife Service, NRCS, and a host of other partners have worked together to, I believe, do 14 release sites in the state of Colorado, releasing somewhere around 135 black-footed ferrets. We are running into some challenges with sylvatic plague and how to treat the prairie dogs. Prairie dogs are the primary staple or food source for black-footed ferrets, and so when the prairie dog colony plagues out, we lose our ferrets. So we're trying to overcome that challenge. But if things weren't difficult or challenging, we wouldn't be doing them anyway. So, and lastly, I'll mention our soil health initiative, and this is one that, involves a diverse partnership with our universities, Ag Research Service, private landowners, and there's a host of soil health workshops going on around the state. If you get an opportunity to attend one of those, the greatest thing about those, I think, is the fact that we have agricultural producers talking to ag producers about their experiences with soil health, how it's improved their operations, how using multi-species cover crops and diversifying their crop rotations has really helped them improve the overall bottom line on their farms. But in all three of these initiatives, they wouldn't have been possible without the relationships that were built between all the partners involved, and then ultimately ended up in some successful conservation measures. Next, I want to talk about, it's important that we grow our youth. So as we talk about the next generation, when we get an opportunity, whether it be through a water festival, a workshop, or an envirothon, to work with elementary students or junior high students, get the parents involved, we're kind of helping grow that next generation of environmental scientists, agriculturalists, maybe even a few foresters if they come to the table. So as we work with our youth, the lady in the outfit and the cape in the upper left-hand corner, that's Petra Barnes. She's our public information officer. And she did this great campaign, come up with a superhero name, and was going out talking to all these third grade kids. And lo and behold, about 2 months later, I get this cease and desist order from an attorney saying, hey, that superhero name is already trademarked for such and such cereal. You cannot use it. So she had to do away with the cape, and we had to change our superhero name for, I think we called it Captain Conservation, and I'm not sure, we had to change it up a little bit. So, but getting to that next generation is really going to help us develop children that have an interest in science and an interest in the environment, and help us have successful partners and successful landowners in the future. Snow surveying is one of our key programs. Everybody that, whether they're a skier, snowboarder, kayaker, farmer or rancher that uses irrigation water, it seems everybody from urban municipalities to recreationalists are interested in what's the snowpack look like this year, what's that potential water supply forecast going to be. And so we're fortunate this year here in Colorado in the Rocky Mountains. I think our current snowpack ranges from 120 to 180% above normal. So now we just got our fingers crossed. Got a slide coming up here on the Emergency Watershed Protection Program. So we got our fingers crossed, hoping that if we do experience some localized flooding, that hopefully it's just slow, easy, localized flooding and not catastrophic floods like we saw in 2013 and 2015. The picture on the right, the older gentleman getting ready to grab the shovel, he's a retired NRCS soil scientist. He had worked 45 years or so for the agency, and this picture was taken in the San Luis Valley when they were finishing up the soil survey down there. That gentleman started the soil survey in the San Luis Valley, so he got to dig the first study hole, and they invited him out when they were finishing up the last sample with the Giddings probe, and he got to dig the last hole in the San Luis Valley to wrap up that initial soil survey down there. So, and I apologize, I totally blanking out on his name, but it was really a cool opportunity for him to be involved. The Emergency Watershed Protection Program is funded through the Stafford Act, and it's one that the NRCS, it required us to reach out and work with what I'll call non-traditional partners. So we had to go about working and building relationships with private landowners that weren't agricultural producers. They were urban and suburban residents, local municipalities, county units of government, and others that we don't typically interact with. And so it took just a little bit for the agency to figure out, okay, how do we go about building these relationships, who needs to be at the table, and of course, anytime when you get more heads around the table, you usually come up with better solutions, but it can also be an even greater challenge. So most of these photos here are from the 2013 flood in the on Highway 34 corridor between Estes Park and Boulder and Big Thompson, all right, Big Thompson River. So we're currently working on around $75 million worth of EWP projects in a partnership with Colorado Water Conservation Board as our lead sponsor on those. And I don't know if he's here with us today, but a gentleman named Kevin Houck. Kevin, are you here? Hey, there he is. So Kevin's got the challenging job of not only wrangling the feds, but wrangling the state, local partners, county units of government, local coalitions, private landowners, and all of those crazy chickens running around trying to get what we need done in a manner that's going to be restore the river, protect it, and make it resilient for future catastrophic floods. And so, tip my hat to Kevin. He's got a pretty challenging job, and that's a huge project that we've got going. I think altogether it leverages somewhere around $62 million in federal, state, and private funds. I wanted to highlight the Upper South Platte Forest Resiliency Project. This was sponsored by the Jefferson County Conservation District, Colorado State Forest Service, the U.S. Forest Service, and a host of other local partners, including Denver Water. So this particular area up near Conifer in Bailey, Colorado, was really threatened by catastrophic wildfire. They had experienced, I think, 4 major catastrophic wildfires in the last 20 years. And so this is where I like to teach Jonas about his groupie clumpy theories, because they've really done an outstanding job, I think, getting somewhere in the neighborhood of 35 or 40 forest private landowners to work together to help reduce that overall understory and reduce that risk of catastrophic wildfire. Now, we won't ever eliminate the risk of wildfire, but we can certainly reduce the level and the damage that it does when we do have a fire. So that one's been a really, really cool opportunity for me to see how a diverse group of folks can come together with a common goal and be successful. The Colorado River Salinity Control Program, for those of you that live out in Grand Junction on the west slope, will be familiar with this. This is our longest running financial assistance program that the Soil Conservation Service and now the NRCS has managed. It was enacted in 1973. It was first funded in 1979. It's currently funded through our Environmental Quality Incentive Program, and we get somewhere between $5.5 and $7 million annually to do irrigation water improvements with farmers and ranchers out there on the western slope of Colorado. Matter of fact, this evening I'm flying to San Diego for a salinity work group meeting, and the hard part about doing salinity control in the Colorado River is there's this mountain range on the Utah border called the LaSalle Mountains. And so when you have something that translates to the salt as some of the parent material, it kind of makes me wonder if we're just really beating our head against the wall trying to fix it. So, but we have made a significant amount of progress with salt savings, and there's over 40 million water users downstream that benefit from the public funds and private funds that are invested in the salinity control program. The 2008 Farm Bill brought a new opportunity for us to work with small acreage landowners. The High Tunnel Initiative, some of you may start seeing, they look like little greenhouses going up all over the place. And this has really opened the doors for us to work with Colorado State University Extension. We have small acreage coordinators here in the state. We have 3 of those now, one in Brighton, one in Grand Junction, and I think we're just getting ready to hire a new position down in Canyon City to help further this initiative. But it was new for us in that we typically work with what I'll call traditional agricultural producers that are out here on the Eastern Plains or farming, typically large acreage, large scale commercial production. And most of these producers are small scale, high value vegetable growers, fruit growers, things like that are participating with these. So that partnership with Colorado State University and other local entities and the conservation districts has really helped us do more outreach with those small scale producers and help expand that urban suburban agricultural interface. Just wanted to highlight our funding for the 2014 Farm Bill to date. In the last 3 years through our EQIP program, we've funded nearly $85 million in contracts here just in the state of Colorado. Through our Conservation Stewardship Program, a little over $13 million, and those are annual funds for 5-year contracts. And then through our Ag Conservation Easement Program, $23 million over the last 3 years. And I'm really proud to say that we had a record year for EQIP funding in 2016 with $33.7 million, and in ASEP with $14.7 million. So of that $23 million in ASEP funds, 14.7 of that came in 2016. So the reason I wanted to mention this slide, so when you're looking at that, it's well over $110 to $115 million worth of funding. So we have economic analysis that shows that those funds, when applied for structural practices, will turn over in a local economy anywhere from 3 to 5 times. So that $110 million worth of financial assistance and public funds that's going out there to treat these resource issues and help these local landowners is turning into $300 to $500 million worth of economic stimulus here in the state of Colorado. And we can't do that all on our own, so it's through partnerships that we get all that done. So I got just a few short slides here. I wanted to, since we are with the Towers Coalition, and this is what you all are here to talk about, we got this quote from the Colorado Department of Agriculture. They're estimating that there's 1.5 million acres infested with tamarisk in the United States, and approximately 75,000 acres right here in Colorado, which could be causing over $300 million worth of damage in losses each year. You know, when we talk about partnerships and success, you know, one of the things we've seen over the last 10 years with the Tamarisk Coalition is there's a variety of ways of getting there and how we treat these resource issues. So whether it's restoring riparian corridors, improving wildlife habitat, or even reducing stream bank erosion, all of those things come together when we do these stream riparian projects, whether it be on public lands or on private lands with agricultural producers and private landowners. I was talking with Rusty Lloyd a little bit earlier before the conference started, and we just got a few slides here on the different methods of treatment. Most of you have probably seen these before. Personally, I like the mechanical treatment just because I'm of that generation, I guess. I want to see it instant. And so you can go in there and clear it and work on restoration right away. But the disadvantage to the mechanical treatment is you do get more ground disturbance and things like that. So it can look like we did a little more damage than what we did to help, but in the end, it's usually a really positive result. The beetles that they released to control tamarisk have been really successful as well as far as biological control. And, you know, that's one of those things for somebody like me who wants that instant gratification. You know, you got to sit back, be a little more patient, and let them do their job when they're out there doing it. So the beetles have been pretty successful here in Colorado as well. And then lastly, just the chemical control, whether it's back sprayers doing spot application, or maybe even some broadcast treatment to help control, whether it be the regrowth after mechanical treatment, or whether it be just spot treating areas where the tamarisk can start to spread along some of those riparian corridors. And then the best part, restoration. Once we get to the opportunity to restore those stream banks, replant the willows that are native to those sites, and make it look like it should look before it was invaded by those unwanted species. So I guess to close, I just want to say that all of this is only possible through building those strong relationships, which leads to strong partnerships, which leads to successful conservation. So thank you again for having me, and hopefully Stacy, I did the mark.